if anybody's out there. Okay, I think we're live. All right. Anybody out there?
Yeah, there we go. It just popped on.
Yeah. Okay. You just saw it went live?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I don't see
That's good with
anybody
the
on
screen,
here.
though. You're
Oh, I
in the
got it.
show.
I see my I think I'm showing my comments. I gotta make sure I can see people's comments so I can answer them. There we go. All right. Well, it is 5:30, right?
Yes, sir. Now,
Oh,
I've got my phone on the side, but I don't see a comment box. Let me do it this way.
you won't.
Oh, okay.
I don't think you will.
Okay.
Hey, Timothy, how you doing, brother? We're just getting started here. We're going to be talking about sharpening knives today. So, welcome back. If you're already looking, hey, Marco. Um, uh, if you're already looking at the channel, my name's Mike. I'm with Rasputin's Castle. Welcome aboard. We're going to have a really, really interesting show today. I've got with me Perfect Blade, Ricky from Perfect Blade, and that's what he does for a living, is sharpen knives. So we can get some expert advice rather than taking my advice, because it's like asking Uncle Bob how to sharpen a knife when you ask me. But I think I make a knife pretty sharp. So, Ricky, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about you, your channel, your hopes, your dreams, where you want to go with your channel, anything you want to talk about like that. And then we'll maybe work with the viewers, answer some of their questions.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate this live because, yes, I do have a fairly new channel. My name is Ricky Haynes, and I do sharpening full time for a living. Now, I don't like to tell everybody how old I am. I'm 61. I've been sharpening for 40 years, but this hadn't been my only endeavor. The way I got into sharpening is interesting to me, but I got a degree in turf grass management, so I designed and built golf courses all over. And the first thing I realized that on a golf course, everything is blades. And we had a mechanic that wasn't very good. So I got into the steel and started sharpening lawnmower blades. And then we have reel mower blades and, just all kinds of blades on the golf course. And I quickly realized that sharpness of a blade makes a big difference. So I've always been one to dive really deep into a subject because I have to learn everything. And so that's what I did. And so the last 10 years, I have been sharpening professionally, I call it. And just a couple months ago, started a YouTube channel because I was getting a lot of questions. And then the other thing that I started doing, Michael, was videoing when I sharpen knives, because when I sharpen for a customer, a lot of times they don't understand what goes into sharpening knives. So I'm thinking that'd be kind of cool to have a video to be able to link and send them and say, here's your knives being sharp. And it allows me to kind of articulate or to talk to them about the condition of their blades, maybe why it's rolling. Did one yesterday that they've had them in dishwashers. So it allows me to talk while I'm sharpening, and then they have a link to it. And I was thinking, it'd be kind of cool just to put that on YouTube, because I am at the part of my life where I want to give back a lot. I want to do good, but I want to build a very successful sharpening channel, because it seems this is a profession that I say is like lawn care, because when somebody sees somebody mowing grass, they're like, oh, we can just get a mower and start making, mowing grass. And a lot of people does that with knife sharpening too. So I just want to put good content. I want to, go beyond the metal. I'm not just about setting a knife on a grinder, as you see behind me, and just grinding away. I consult with metallurgists. I'm always educate myself about steel. So I always say when I go beyond the blade or beyond the metal, I'm looking at it from from a scientific standpoint, but also from an art. So that's kind of where I'm at. I've got some great comments. The subscribers are going up, and a plug I would appreciate if you go over and like my channel and comment. And I'll be doing lots of lives. I used to do, when I sharpened for clients and I videoed their sharpening, it would be like a private video. But what I'm going to start doing, I have a chest mount coming so you can see the grinders when I'm working.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do those as lives. So I'll probably be doing a live almost every day. And then I'll go in and edit it or do something with it. But I just have so many people that like the live sharpenings. The only problem with doing the lives is I can't see the comments because it's on my chest, but it's all fine and good. I'll answer them after. So yeah, it's the Perfect Blade, and I'm in Tyrone, Georgia. Tyrone, Georgia is about 25 minutes south of the Atlanta airport, and this is where we call home. So that's kind of about me.
Well, I'm assuming most of your stuff is local. Are you into like if a viewer here wanted to send you a blade to sharpen? Are you doing that yet?
I am. I have several people that mail me knives. Also, one thing I do is I have a lot of friends in Columbus, Georgia. Columbus, Georgia is about an hour and 15 minutes more south of here. And I do farmers markets. So one thing I do for Columbus is I just load up, I got my truck set up with inverters and, all kinds of equipment. So I sharpen out of my truck. So I go to Columbus, I don't know, once a month for a day and sharpen. I do a couple of restaurants and I just pull up in their parking lot and sharpen. So, maybe one day when it gets warm this spring, we'll do a live sharpening event, live jive, and I'll bring it up there and we can have some of your viewers over and we'll just do a sharpening for people.
Yeah, that sounds a great idea with restaurants. I told you before the video, I've been sharpening all my life. And so when I started out as a young man, I worked in a restaurant and, we were using those chef knives and they were getting dull and people couldn't sharpen them. And once they figured out that I could sharpen their knives, they were all over me to sharpen the knives up. But so are you set up and ready for people to mail you a blade? And have you thought about how you're going to handle that whole evolution of getting a blade and sending it back? And
oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And, most people are doing the they call it a $5 box, I guess, where you put everything in the box and ship them. And I have people that wrap them in paper towels, wrap them in paper just to kind of protect the blades. And then I get them sharpened, and I have blade protectors here, and I package them back up nicely and ship them right back out. But yeah, we're set up for that. Absolutely. And there's a one-day turnaround. I get your knives one day, I get them sharp, and they're back in the mail the next day. So it's not a situation where I keep them for a week.
I'm already getting people, asking for the link to your channel. So I don't know that I can put it up here. Give me, wow. It's just Perfect Blade, right? Go to YouTube and look at Perfect Blade. And Ricky's got a link for his, he's got a .com that you can contact him on.
It's at Perfect Blade ZT 9RZ, I think. But you can do the Perfect Blade Tyrone, Georgia, and it'll bring my videos up.
Okay.
Thank you guys for doing that too.
I'm gonna leave you talk just for a minute. I got to put my cat out. I'll be right back.
Okay. All right. Good evening, guys. Appreciate y'all joining the live. Appreciate y'all being interested in the channel. But yeah, if you go, now my website is theperfectblade.com. And I have also sharpening videos there. And you can click on those sharpening videos and go to my YouTube. But the one thing that I told Michael that I want to make sure that I'm not just about sharpening knives. People email me with questions. They call me with questions. You know, some people want to sharpen their own knives at home with whetstones, what have you. I've got a couple sharpeners behind me that you can use too. But yeah, email me, and I'll answer any questions you have.
Sorry about that.
No, you're fine. You're all fine. I got 2 dogs jumping out the door myself, but they just gonna have to wait.
I got people saying they just subbed to your channel. Rule number 9. Thanks so much. We got Watch City Knives there.
Thank you.
Norwegian Tinkerer. I didn't get a chance to say hi to you, but hi. He's from Norway, by the way.
Who is?
Norwegian Tinkerer.
Oh, I'll have to look up the guy that I talked to up there. He does a lot of work with the thanks, Pocket EDC. I appreciate you, man. I'll have to see what he does. And he's the one where I'm getting a lot of my metallurgy info in. And I'm sharpening some test knives that way. And you mind me going into it for just a quick second?
No, go ahead.
So one of the things that he has found, and he's a metallurgist, and he talks to me, and I really don't understand half of what he's saying. But think of this. So he has all these test jigs, and he can build anything. So he's went as far as to say, it matters which hand you cut with. So if you're a right-handed cutter, of course, the inside of the blade is going to be the one, you know, closest to your body, outside both. But in his testing, when an individual, let me grab just the knife behind me. When an individual is cutting, and let's just say we're at 15 degrees, 17, whatever we're at. When an individual is cutting with a knife and it's going down through food, dense food too is a lot of it. He says the natural tendency is for the food to push the blade to the outside on a right-handed cutter. Yeah. So as you get to whatever you're cutting on, cutting board, what have you, the edge of the blade is not hitting square with the board, and that's where rolling of the edge comes in. So one of the things I'm working with him on, and he doesn't have enough, he doesn't do volumes of knife. So what we're trying is on a chef knife, a 15 degree on the inside and add 10 degrees on the outside. So 15, 25. And what that is doing is it's counteracting the knife wanting to push out.
Yeah.
It all boils down to it's an effortless cut. So when I sharpen a blade that way and the blade is thin correctly, almost every time you sharpen a blade, it needs to be thin if it's thick enough. Then his study shows that it is a 34% reduction in the amount of force it takes to cut food.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. You know, you're going to have a certain angle based upon what hand you're holding your knife in. That's really the same thought behind a chisel, right? So a chisel blade, you know, only has the angle on one side because of the way that you're attacking wood. Mm-hmm. And that's all you're doing is by putting different angles on your blade, you're accounting for the natural tendency to put the knife at an angle.
Right.
I think that's smart. I think that's really cool.
And I've got a lot of test blades out there, and you know I do 15, 17, and sometimes more depending on the blade. But you know they're razor sharp. I've perfected my process under a microscope, and I'm very confident in it. But you know you always got to learn. You always got to change. And then the reducing the metal behind the cutting edge by 10%. When I do that, And let's say I get this knife in. What do you guys send it? And I set it on the grinder and I start grinding. And it takes me 6 to 8 swipes, and I still don't have a burr.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing I've done is called unnecessary heat in the edge of this blade. And you get what's called work hardening. So work hardening, once you're trying to move too much metal for too long, the heat builds up. It causes it to be brittle, and that's where a lot of chipping comes from.
Mm-hmm.
But when I look at this edge, and I measure it with a digital caliper, and I set it up and I'm thinning on the thick part of the blade. So that's not near, you're not, the metal structure, you're not near causing as much damage when you're doing that, but reduce it 10 degrees behind the blade. Okay, so I get that done. It only takes about 5 minutes. One swipe on the grinder and I've got a complete even burr. That's huge compared to doing 10 swipes on a 120 grit, 10 swipes on a 400, and then going on. I'm literally doing one swipe back and forth, and then I'll go to a 4-600 just to refine the burr, 2 swipes. Now I'm just going to a leather and a felt belt. So I've basically almost reduced a huge amount of the heat that builds up on blades. And I think too, that's one reason that my blades are lasting so much longer as far as.
So you're talking about on your electric sander.
That's right. That's right.
You're not doing it on a grinder. You're doing it on a sander, right?
That's right. Yeah. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've got 5 of those, and with angle guides. And the only reason I have grinders, but I just have a paper wheel and a leather wheel on them, and that's just to refine the burr.
What do you feel? I've talked to you before. I know you're reducing the grinds on these to create a sharper blade. That's the way to do it. But what do you say to somebody who's using their knife for a camp knife and wants a higher angle, like a 22.5 or 23 angle on their blade to try to protect the edge of that blade in a really rough environment, like a camp situation out in the woods? What do you think about that?
Yeah. So, and I agree, it has to be higher. From a metallurgist standpoint, does have an inverse relationship. So you give up a little bit sharpness, but you gain the toughness.
Right.
You go lower, you're going to give up the toughness, but you're going to gain the sharpness. So it's what kind of you want to hang on to the best of both worlds.
Right.
And I don't know if you've ever watched Cliff Stamp. He's passed away now, but incredibly knowledgeable. And he goes deep, deep into those subjects to where you can almost find that happy medium somewhere. Right. But pocket knives, I'll generally do, if they're, like you're saying, if it's hard used, if they're out in the woods and everything, I'll do a 20 on it. If it's just casual cutting and they're not hard on the blade, I may do 17 or 18 on it.
So I think what I find, like I'm checking blades, right? Mm-hmm. My sense is that most manufacturers, it doesn't matter what the blade is, okay, except for kitchen cutlery. Kitchen cutlery comes in at a lower angle, but most of your normal blades that we use for EDC and out in the field, I find that they come from the factory around 22.5, 23 degrees. Yeah. And I like to take mine down to like 20 or, in that area. And if I'm dealing with something that I want to be really slicey, I take them down to 18 is what I do. Yeah. But I also worry, I think 18, 17 degrees, 16 degrees, you can do with a good super steel.
Yeah.
But I kind of worry that like 1095 probably could, in normal everyday use, couldn't handle a 17, 18 degree grind. What do you think about that?
I probably agree. Yeah. And that's where this new idea that the guy has given me about increasing the angle on the outside edge. He's done it with chef knives, and it absolutely worked. But I'm just wondering, and I'm going to do it. I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to do that with some pocket knives, especially hunting knives. You know, if I do a 17 on the inside and maybe a 22, 24 on the outside, it's going to be interesting, and we can test the sharpness of it for sure. So it's going to be interesting how it compares in sharpness, and if you're not giving up any sharpness, how it's going to compare for blade retention through heavy use. And, you know, there's people that cut ropes and stuff, but I want to see some real cutting, you know, like we do out in the woods, cut woods, chop woods, you know, create sticks with it. I want to see how that angle adjustment's going to work. And I think it'll work. I think it absolutely will work. But yeah, I rarely go over, I go to 22 on some of the big everyday carry fixed blades, but rarely over that. And I think sometimes that the factory knives are just too high because they have to do bulk knives all at the same angle. They can't cut them.
Yeah. And I also think they do it for the same reason that they put the HRC so low is they don't want people sending knives back because the blade's chipped. And when you lower that HRC, they're going to be a little tougher, but you lose that edge retention. And that's why you got to be really careful with I don't think most of these companies are putting HRC hardness on their blades that they advertise.
Right.
And it's really important, you know, like you see that a lot. I see like people advertising 59 and 60 HRC on MagnaCut. And MagnaCut really doesn't even come into its own until it's at 61, 62 HRC.
Yeah.
And I think that translates into problems you're going to have when you're trying to sharpen a knife when it's not as hard as it's supposed to be.
Yeah. Have you ever tried to
do you find like when you're sharpening a knife, you'll see that knife reacting, or that steel reacting to you sharpening it?
100%.
You can say, oh man, this thing, it's not tempered right, or
absolutely 100%. And I can almost feel the grinder feedback is what I call. A lot of people that sharpen with stones, and if any of these guys here do, you know what feedback is, and I'll get that, but I can tell when I start the thin one what I'm going to deal with. And hey, Greg, how you doing, my friend? Yeah, so I will do that, but I've been really diving into that metallurgy for 2 years, and you know, just now kind of trying to understand that. And now that, you know, I realize what's happening beyond the metal and how we're pushing those atomic structures and those crystals, I really have a much better understanding when I'm grinding and I'm looking at the metal, what we're looking at. And that's rare. I don't think many sharpeners do that. Well, I know probably rarely any do it. You know, they'll just grab a belt sander and an angle guide and go to town. And I was listening to a guy today, and you know, he ruined a $500 knife, and he ruined it because he didn't thin it. He sharpened it, and it just cooked the edge of it, and it was an expensive one. Of course, $500. I forget the name. And that's what we have to guard against, or that's what I want to guard against.
Yeah,
it's amazing when the thinning's right and you run it one time. I'll do it live. I was going to do it tonight, but I'll do it tomorrow, and you guys check it out. And I show the thinning process, and then I'm just going to swipe it one time and show the burr. So if I didn't, as I'm repeating earlier, if I didn't do the thinning, you know, it'd take 9 to 10 swipes aside, and that's way too much. So at the blade, very, very, very minimal heat buildup. And I had the guy in Norway that's building me a jig to attach to my sanders, and I have no idea what he's building me, but it's going to aid in making sure the blade is not heating up through the grinding process.
Hey, JC. Yeah, jigs definitely help. I don't have a jig. Actually, that's not true. I've got a commercial jig,
Uh-huh.
right? So on my sander, I have a little jig I can put on there that has the angle, and I can
Oh,
slide the knife up there and run it through. I like that because it's I'm getting better, okay, but I'm not like you. I don't do 20 knives a day, so I'm not completely consistent as I take it across on a electric sander,
yeah.
and so in those cases, I think a jig works out really good. But I know, knife manufacturers, guys who do custom knives, they use jigs, and that's
Yeah.
the best way to do it.
Yeah. Stan's Cutlery Universe. Hey, buddy, if you don't mind giving me a follow in, I'd like to hear more about River Valley survival and bushcraft. I love survival and bushcraft. If
That's
you
a
got
cool
a channel,
channel.
oh,
So
I'll definitely subscribe.
I met him at a knife show, and I really like his channel. I put it out there before, but um, yeah, it's a really cool channel.
I love it.
Um,
Speaking of knife
he's
show, do you go
doing.
to the Atlanta Knife Show?
I did go to the Blade Show this year. It's the first time I went
Yeah.
in ever, and it was amazing. But mainly a show like that is for custom knife makers. They're trying to get
Yeah.
the word out. The manufacturers are there too. Buck, Case, other manufacturers. They were there. Um, it's just amazing. Just once in your lifetime, if you could go to a knife show, that's good.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
It's that's awesome, Norwegian. Hey,
Let's talk
Norwegian, have you
about.
watched the channel of the Australian sharpeners that have so much data out that uses the Toramac?
Yeah,
It's incredible.
yeah,
Their knowledge, and you can transfer any knowledge to
yeah,
any stone or any belt that you're using. I love that. I think the gentleman's passed away now and the channel's not
yeah,
active, but man, there's
yeah.
some great stuff.
I think you get the bottom line there. It is it's really going to depend on the HRC that you put on your edge, how soft that's going to be, and whether it's properly tempered. And if they're not, it's going to be hard to put an edge on a knife and hard to keep it on. And if they are, it's going to work well.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, if you're out there, guys, and you just want a sharp knife, we should say decrease in the angle, right? So you're going 22.5 down to 17.
Yeah.
Decreasing down to 17 or 18 is going to make your knife sharper.
Yep.
You just got to realize that not every steel is going to take that. Not
Yep.
And for regular everyday use, it might be fine. But if you're putting it through a lot of hard use on a construction site, a roofing job, landscaping, or out in the woods, you might get some chipping. And that's not really the steel's fault. It's just there's not enough steel behind the edge.
That's right. That's right. That is exactly right. Rolling the edge is what we're trying to prevent when we're sharpening.
So let me ask you, before we're done, I want to get back to your bench and walk through your equipment.
Yeah.
But what I'd like to ask now is a lot of people, even though sanders are pretty inexpensive nowadays, a lot of people don't have the sanders to sand a knife.
Yep.
So share with me some of your thoughts or hints for just regular stuff.
I'm going to tell you. You mean if someone wanted to sharpen on their own?
Yeah, let me show some of my stuff.
Yeah, I'm going to
You
show
can
you
talk
my
about it.
number one recommended tool when you're ready.
So this is just a stone, the old stone. It's got a rugged side, a rough side, and a smooth side. I've used these all my life. I don't use those as often as I used to, but I do use them still. Mainly like when I want to fix a blade that's screwed up, I'll put it on that rough edge. And then I like using Arkansas stones.
Yeah.
And I got another question for you. So this is my Arkansas stone. It's got 4 sides
Oh, wow.
and you just flip it over like that and run through it. And this Arkansas stone really brings an edge out of the knife.
Now, is that oil, water, or what is it?
Um, Oil.
Oil.
Yeah, you got to use
Is that
oil
wood
on
on
that.
the side?
Yeah,
Okay.
and you got to use oil on that. But that brings up another thing is I read one time where a guy was saying you don't really have to put oil or water on a stone, right? It's really not doing anything. And so I don't know about that. I don't know how you feel about that.
I
And
agree.
then I use this on my serrated edges. It's a
Yeah.
diamond edge. I forget who makes this. It's common.
Um, I've got one sitting right over there behind me.
This is a Smith's
Smith's.
sharpener,
Yeah.
and but that's how I do my serrated edges. And
Yeah.
it's also, if you flip it, it's got a hook sharpener right there. Let me see if I can get it. And then it's got a flat side also. And
Yeah. If
then
you're in the field or you're going hunting or fishing, you can just put that in your pocket.
yeah, they're those little park pocket sharpeners do a pretty good job.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have small ceramic or Arkansas stones. They're only about that big. They're very light, and that's usually what I keep in my pack to help out if I need it. And then I just do a regular strop, and I've got
Oh, that's a nice drop there.
I've got a ceramic rod
Yeah.
that I run my knives on.
I agree with
So
you, Norwegian. You're right, bud.
one thing I feel, I've known about this for a long time, right? So most of my life probably I realized every time you sharpen a knife, you're taking steel off of it, and so um, maybe for the past this sounds horrible, but because we're old, Ricky, but probably for the past 20 years, I've attempted to sharpen a knife without taking a lot of steel off of it. So I
Mm-hmm.
learned, like, if you just come home and strop your knife, most of the time you can bring that edge back up if you haven't really terribly abused it. And the next level is the ceramic rod, right? And so that's what I try to do with most of my knives is just use a ceramic rod
Yeah.
and a strop.
Yeah.
And I learned to whether my knives needed it or not. At the end of the week, I just sharpened them. Right.
Mm-hmm.
If I
Mm-hmm.
needed to sharpen them, you did a lot of work, and they were getting a little dull. I'd sharpen them before that, but I just don't let them get dull, and I try to sharpen them in the least aggressive manner. So, with that said, what are your thoughts on the different types of sharpening mediums that are not like an electric uh, sander?
Yeah, definitely. I sharpen it for two farmers markets, and that's my favorite thing to do. I love it, and I have a lot of people they're so interested in sharpening, and they're trying on whetstones. They're just not. They're not getting it. They'll bring their whetstone, and it'll be like a huge dip in the middle.
Right.
And there's so much to understand about it. But I'll show you. I'll just grab it off the wall behind me. If someone asks me, and they often do, I want to sharpen my own knives at home. This is what I tell them.
Work sharp. Yeah.
Just Ken Onion. And I mean, I know everybody's probably familiar, but man, you can set your angle right there and then just pull the trigger and set it. And it's just angle guided. You just swipe the knife through is all you do.
Is that not going to give you a convex edge though?
It's where your knife goes through. It's almost like a solid platen behind it. But yeah, and if someone just wanted to sharpen their kitchen knives or whatever, that's what I tell them.
You're right.
Is it the greatest? No. But the thing is with these, they come out with the new versions and they're expensive, like $350. You can pick these up for $50 all day long.
Yeah.
I got this one at a thrift store, I think for $10, and I just didn't want it sitting there. So I just play, or I have played with it sharpening sometimes. But if you use this little thing here, will slide down, and it's
Right.
it's for the guide. If you do that, it keeps it pretty solid, and you shouldn't get that much of convection out of it. But you can put a leather belt on here or something,
Right.
and it'll hone it. I mean, just for a quick
Yeah.
sharpen, if someone's not
Yeah.
comfortable with whetstones. And I keep this in my everyday carry bag, and that's just the Work Sharp Field Edition.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got a 220 plate, it's got a 600 plate, it's got the ceramic. There we go. The ceramic honing rod.
Right.
It's got a coarse, a fine, and then it's got a fish hook sharpener, serrations, and then it's got a leather strap on it. So if I'm out, fishing or whatever, and I feel like my day blade it needs tuning up, you can actually big time do it. The other thing that's kind of cool, these are 20-degree angle guides on this thing.
Yeah.
So you can just set your angle on there and swipe it, and that right there is a great option. But I love whetstones is almost like therapy.
Yeah.
I just can't do it because you definitely can't do it on a commercial side of it. You'll be there all day long. But
right.
They're good. But now with the new, the metallurgist, and I keep going back, sorry, but what he's finding is if you're taking 10 degrees off behind the cutting edge and you're doing your sharpen right, you're really taking off less metal with a belt sander than you are with a whetstone. Especially when you can just do 1 to 2 swipes and you got a burr.
Well, that's true. That's a good point.
Yep.
And I forgot to show it, guys. This is my diamond setup here. So Sheepdog Traveling mentioned that. So the diamond stones, they're tough. They take metal off really, really quick. I don't even use this on 1095, D2, those kind of tool steels. I only use this on a blade that's really chopped up, where I've got to reestablish the edge because somebody used a grinder on it, or a super steel. I'll use this, but most of my super steel, I just don't let them get dull, right? So that's the secret. And most of the different super steels that I've have in my inventory, if you just sharpen them, once a week, you can use a ceramic rod. It'll sharpen it up great. You can strop it sharp, but you don't need to use that diamond stone you want to use on something that's dull, right? And you got to bring it back.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm with you, Norwegian. Something about freehanding on a whetstone, man. It's just it's like, awesome. But like after I sharpen all day, I'll come home. I'm like, no, I'm not sharpening on a whetstone, but I miss it. I hadn't done it in a long time, but I really miss sharpening.
Yeah, it's like stropping's the same way. Stropping it's like petting a dog. It just makes you happy.
Yeah, I really want to get I do my stropping process when I do it. And I'll show you in a little bit. I learned this from the Sharpeners Australia. I learned my wife. I'm from Alabama, and when I say things, sometimes she just cringes, but because she's an English teacher. But I learned a lot of my process through them because of the extensive testing they do. And that's where I always used a paper wheel. Incredible. I used the not the sharpening paper wheel. I used the deburring paper wheel. But I added the felt wheel and the leather wheel because of them and all the work and the documentation that they did on it. And that's what's key. They didn't just say, do it, man, they've got it down to the scientific portion of it. And man, when I started doing that, that's when sharpness just went through the roof. And so, I used to have some really cool hand strops, but they've just kind of gone by the wayside. And I like to get another one. Just it's a lot of fun just getting them stropped, and that leather strop on a pocket knife does wonders for it. Oh, but it's
I'm not
sharpen with a whetstone. Great. If not, there's others. I've been just so totally anti pull through sharpeners. I can't see straight. I've got so many damaged knives with those.
Okay. First, I want to mention Norwegian Tinkerer.
Yeah,
we can just put these up here, I think. Yeah. Okay. So I'm not familiar with that. That Shapton Pro Stones.
Yeah.
But I don't have any problem putting a really sharp edge on the knife with what I use. So, like a lot of guys swear by Japanese whetstones. I'm not sure you really need to do that, but the more you put into anything, the better the job's going to be. So, definitely, but I think the key is getting your knife sharp and then keeping it sharp, right? The mistake that people make is they don't come back and strop their knife or run it on a ceramic rod to keep it sharp. They run it until it's dull, and then you got a problem. Then you got to bring back an edge.
That's when people ask me the number one question I get: how often do I need to sharpen? Well, what they don't understand is when you hit a chicken bone or you're clicking on a cutting board, that edge starts to get a little wobbly. Mm-hmm. And that's where the weakening begins. Well, if you go back after you use it and just hit a couple swipes on a ceramic rod, it just straightens that edge back out, and the longevity of edge retention just is astronomical. I have people that they use their knives heavy, and we're pushing them out 6 months. Light use, kitchen use, you can go for a year.
Why don't we're getting close on time.
Yeah.
If you would, I was wondering if you could just go back, walk through. One of the questions I have before you walk back to your table.
Yes, sir.
It is, I wondered if you used emulsions on your stropping material, the leather that you use, or the
compound,
the wheel, right?
Yes.
What kind of compounds do you use?
I am experimenting with the diamond emulsions. I know from using a couple different types, they have a diamond spray and emulsion. When I use the spray, I'm out quick. When I use the diamond emulsion, it lasts me 3 times longer than what it does. And I think, a micron is a micron to me. It's just the way you're applying it. So I have a 3 and I have a 6. And so what I like doing is on the first deburring process on the paper wheel, I like using the micron. I've been using 3. And then I go down to the white compound on the felt wheel. And then on the leather, I use green compound. But I don't know. I don't have enough. I've got some really nice microscopes that I look under edges with, but I don't really know. I don't see a big difference. I'm sure there is, but I listen to paper. I watch the way the knife lands. Does it crimp? Does it slice clean? Can you push cut? And I get them with all of them. So I don't think I would probably know the difference if I use white compound on everything.
Right.
I know there is, but I never depicted like, oh yeah, this is what the diamond's doing that the compound's not doing. Is it probably an improvement? Is it worth just me substituting out everything? No. And sometimes I even when I run out of the diamond, I'll just go to the white compound on the paper wheel, and I don't know that
Yeah.
it makes a difference. I think it might make a bigger difference on something that you're doing by hand versus a power.
Yeah.
I think that would probably make a big difference.
Yeah, I think taking steps like that will make a sharper and sharper blade, and you're into like a sharpness worship that is really short-lived, because as soon as you start losing it, you're going to start losing that sharpness.
Yeah.
Now, maybe that would make sense on a super steel, which is already going to stay sharp for a while. So maybe that would be better, to use on a super steel. Really invest a lot of time in making the edge super, super sharp. But I still think that the first couple times you use a knife, you're losing that sharp edge, and you're down to a working edge.
Alexis, when you say feel the difference with paper, are you sharpening those on a stone and then feeling the difference when you're cutting paper? I'm just curious. I'm sure that's what you're doing. But yeah, I've really gotten tuned. I think a lot of people think you cut paper just to show off, but to me, it's the way the paper's reacting to the knife that
it tells you how sharp it is.
Yeah, tear or kind of a crunch or a crush, that's not good. It's just got to be that clean, crisp slice and push cut rather than slice, a push. And that's beautiful.
I usually don't even do that in knife reviews, so I don't even. Sometimes I do, but very rarely do I even worry about, hey, look at,
Yeah.
I can tell somebody, okay, this knife, it comes sharp, right?
Yeah.
And because there's so many varying degrees of that, what sharp is, So let's walk back to the table and look at that before we head out here. We're running up on an hour.
Okay. But before, and I hope everybody subscribes to my channel. I would certainly appreciate it. But the thing when we're talking about sharpening that led me to where we are now, and people talk about my knives were sharp, but they don't stay sharp. The number one problem I see with any sharpener, and even people that sharpen for a living, is not totally removing the burr. The Australian guys cleared me up on that. And I sharpened for years, and I was leaving a wire edge on the cutting edge.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I found it was a suggestion they had was taking 6-pound fishing line and cutting it, and then looking at it under a microscope, and you'll see the dimple where the burr's pushed in. And when I realized that was like an explosion. So when I started using the paper and the felt, that's what finally got rid of it, because after I used a felt wheel one time, I looked at it under a microscope and I'm like, oh my gosh, what in the world have I done to this knife? It was the paper burr peeling off of it. I had never seen that. And then when I saw it, I'm like, I fully understand now. So the one thing you've got to make sure you're doing is getting that burr off.
Do you collect knives?
Oh, absolutely, I do.
Okay.
Yes, I love Barlows. I try to buy every Barlow I can.
Okay, we'll have to look at that one day. But go ahead and show us your setup there.
Yeah, let's do it. I'll try not to make everybody sick when I move I'm going to turn the light on and see if that's any better now.
Yeah, we can see that better.
Okay, so let me just kind of scoot y'all up here just a minute.
Just go through each one, and what to do with it.
So when I start sharpening, by the way, these are my new stickers. I don't know if that shows it. So if anybody wants one, just let me know. That's Mr. Sharpington, an AI created frog. So when I start, this is the machine that I use to thin with. I have it laying flat. I've got this on here just testing. Normally I don't have anything on there. And I shoot for a 10-degree edge. sometimes I've just done it enough now. I know what 10 degrees is, and I love just freehanding. But I'm sharpening this, thinning with this under the bright light, and I go till I see that burr form up. And if someone's watched a burr form under a light, is fantastic. If you sharpen with stones and you've not put a bright light right over the rock, you can see the minute that burr forms. That does a couple of things. Number one, it makes sure you're reaching the apex properly without stopping short. And number two, it's keeping you from removing too much metal. So the minute it'll turn white, the minute you see that white build up and you can feel that burr with your fingers, you're done on that side. There's no sense in going any further. So that's what I do here. I keep it cool. And once I'm done, this is a new machine I just got in. If anybody's considering buying one, this is a buck tool. The key to these belt sanders is you can't use a full speed belt sander. They're 3,600 RPMs, and that's where the problem comes in. These are all half speed. So these are running at 1,800. So I'll take this buck tool, and I've got a angle guide that's easily to set. So what I do is I can just set it on there with an angle guide, push it up, make one swipe over, one swipe back. And after I thin, oh, that one's got a burr now. That it puts a burr on there. Okay, this is a Scotch-Brite wheel, and this is another reason I bought the buck tool, because the Harbor Freight 1x30s, you can't put anything else on. Here you can. A Scotch-Brite wheel is 220. So if you need to clean rust, I use it to kind of blend where I thin. That's fantastic. So yeah, this runs at 1,800 RPMs. So after that, I bring this one up. This is a modified Harbor Freight with a Kansu sewing machine motor on it. The reason this is excellent is because I can go forward, I can go reverse, I can go from 100 all the way up to 8,000 RPMs. So I set this one, if I do leather belt striping, I'll slow it down to 800, sometimes 600. And then...
You see that, Ricky?
Yes, sir. So EDC, let me finish this and we'll talk about that here. So I'll do a 120 grit Cubitron. Belts mean a huge difference. You can sharpen with aluminum carbide or something else other than the 3M. You won't get there, but this 3M belt, it'll take you there quick. This is the Harbor Freight. I'm only using really for the 600. And then I'll just move you a little bit. I won't show you too much of those. But this is my buck tool slow speed. That's a paper wheel I go to. Then I got a leather wheel. Then I got a mini jewelry buffer that I use that I absolutely love. So EDC, when I'm thinning, it is reprofiling. Because, well, that's not a good one.
Look at his latest comment too, Ricky.
Okay.
He's got another comment.
Aluminum oxide? Yeah,
No,
those are
I got it up on the screen. When we refer to thinning,
yes,
it's as in thinning the blade stock, keeping the geometry of the grind the same as we progress up the flat grind.
Yeah, so I'm changing the geometry of the knife, absolutely, because when I sharpen, let's say this one's at 15 degrees. If the metal is too thick on there, then we're not going to get it to an apex. You'll never feel that burr. So we are changing the geometry more to like a flat grind, to where it's about 10 degrees. So I'll lay it down flat and go 10 degrees until I see the burr. So if I did that knife right there, I would literally be taking that bevel and moving it up further. And then once I get to 10 degrees and that bevel where I want, and I'm seeing the burr on the edge, then I set that secondary bevel at whatever angle I'm going to cut on. And this one would be 15 degrees. So I go 10 degrees, thinning, changing the geometry, resetting the bevel, basically. And then I go 15, 20 to 25 on the outside. Right now, that seems to be absolutely perfect. If I don't thin a knife, we were talking earlier, you will sit there and grind 10 swipes and you still won't have a burr. At that point, you've damaged that edge severely by overheating it. So the work I'm doing now with thinning, with edge geometry, is allowing me to go one swipe there, one swipe there. I have a perfect burr at that point. When you thin up into the metal structure, you're not damaging it because of the atomic structures. Big time tough up here in the structure. It's toward the edge that it really gets thin and you have to reduce that heat. So by just making a couple swipes, man, we're not building up any heat at all. So that's why it's making it all worth it. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's it. So we're basically reprofiling. Yep, we are changing that edge geometry. We're moving the bevel up. I even hear some people say you should thin them until you're removing the bevel, but I just like moving the bevel up. So if it's a flat grind or a Scandi grind, yeah.
Okay, so Alexis is saying he can't get his Scandi grind to slice. You know anything about Scandi grinds?
Yeah, that's it's too thick. The metal's too thick. I guarantee you.
Behind the edge?
And it's so hard to do with stones. There are a couple out there you can do, but if you took a caliper, I've got digital calipers, and I'm going to make this video tomorrow. If you put that caliper directly behind that cutting edge, you would see that it's way too thick. And once you get there, it's just, you can't get it sharp. You know, you gotta figure, like, the apex looks like that flat spot right there. You know, it's overstated, but that's what you're trying to sharpen. It's just not going to get there.
Yeah.
Send it to me, Alexis. I'll thin it and then I'll mail it back to you. I'll do it for free, just for you, so you can see what I'm talking about, and then you can say he was right or he was wrong. Where do you live? But yeah, that's what it is. When even with a whetstone, you can even tell quick if the metal's too thick, because you just can't get a burr. And then when
it's
you
usually the problem.
Not a good slice.
Right? If you take for granted that it's tempered properly, the next thing is just the grind there's too much metal behind the edge, right? You got to change that grind and start putting a proper edge on it.
The EDC reviewer, you're spot on right there. So yeah, that's my process. I've got tons of belts up there. You know, I usually thin starting with an 80, and then I'll go to a 120 and blend in. Then I'll go to a 120 Cubitron belt, set the bevel. I'll go to either a 4 or 600, depending on which one I have in stock, just to refine that bevel. Then I just go to the paper wheel right there, which is incredible. It's razor sharp after that. A couple swipes on the felt and the leather, and we are good to go. So the process has really gotten down, and I'm excited being able now to create that. And like I said, the guy's building me something. I have no idea what's going to show up. Something to put on my sharpeners that is going to aid in keeping the blade even cooler at the sharpening level. Right. So I'll be interested to see what that is.
So let's see here. Man, I had a question on a lot. Oh, the paper. Your paper buffer.
Yes.
What is that?
So it is a MDF.
A belt, paper belt.
No, it's right here. It's this paper wheel.
I got you. Paper.
Yeah.
It's just made out of
paper sharpening system. Really interesting. They have the there's a wheel with a 220 grit on it. And we didn't even go into this about edge leading or edge trailing. I'm an edge leading sharper. All these are edge trailing when I could do the felt belts and the paper, but I sharpen edge leading. So that's just like an MDF paper.
Explain that, what you mean by edge leading.
Yes. So I sharpen edge leading. So when I am on this sharpener, the belt is turning down toward here. So my edge is going into the belt.
Right.
So you take off less metal. I've done it edge trailing. I just can't seem to get it as sharp, but you don't have as good as edge retention on edge trailing as you do edge leading. So that belt is coming straight down in here. It is safe because of this angle guide. And it's happened to me. If something happens and the knife comes loose and the belt wants to throw it, that angle guide will stop it because it's only just a small amount that's touching. So that prevents injuries. And then when I go to honing, then it's edge trailing. The belts or the wheels go away from because you'll cut into the leather and the paper if you try to do edge leading.
So, do you remember what the name of that edge guide is?
The paper.
No, the edge guide you use on your belt sander.
Oh, it's just called an angle guide.
Okay. Because I ordered one. I got one off of Amazon. It's brass, but it works great. It just slips over.
Yes.
The edge of the belt and
Norwegian. I run everything at half speed. That's a low speed buck tool, so it's running at half the speed as what a normal. I think that's 1750, and then my first belt sander buck tool is 1750 half speed, and then I slow my modified down to like 800. So I don't sharpen anything over that. Straight from Harbor Freight, they'll turn 3,600 RPMs, and you just cook a blade that way.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll have to. I'm actually looking one of our viewers up here.
One of the there's a supplier out of Hawaii. He's also a sharpener, Cliff Curry, and he's kind of taken the role of Cliff Stamp of being the mentor for everybody. And he's got a site that he sells sharpening supplies, and I love it because he's a sharpener, and he has a lot of these things made, does prototypes, and he's just spot on. So I just get all my stuff from him, and it makes it easy. And shipping from Hawaii, I got a bundle of belts shipped to me from Cliff Curry in Hawaii. The shipping charge was much less than me getting it from R.S. Hughes out of Atlanta shipping to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, okay, bud, that won't happen again. So,
hey,
EDC, those buck tools are fantastic to get, and they're so easy to learn on. And this thing, I mean, literally, this buck tool, and I know we got to go, but literally, you just turn that a quarter turn, drops down, and then the belt comes off. And it is just that quick. So you can change a belt on and off in seconds.
Where do you get that?
I got that off of the Buck Tool website. Actually, they have sales on them all the time.
Okay,
it's just half speed, not the regular speed. And I think I got that one on sale at Black Friday for like $110. I think normally maybe they're $130, but they last forever, and they're heavy, so they don't move around on you. Sometimes I build platforms for them, but. Yeah, I mean, Cliff Stamp was a great guy, wasn't he, EDC? I love still watching his videos.
Okay. So EDC reviewer, I had not heard of you. Thank you for checking in with us. And I already subscribed to you, brother. I really appreciate you dropping by and checking us out.
Yeah, I'll do the same. And I appreciate anybody here following me on my YouTube channel would be fantastic. I strictly sharpen. That's my YouTube channel. I just sharpen. And like I said, I've got a chest mount coming. So when I sharpen, I mean, you're going to be looking at what I'm looking at. And I think that's a lot of it. I have a lot of people, obviously, that are wanting to learn that has been watching my sharpening by the questions that are coming in. And I love that. I absolutely 100% love it. So I really want to get that good view so they can see what's going on. But anybody has any questions, curiosity, want to share something with me, I always learn from everybody, just send me a message, man. My website is theperfectblade.com.
Ricky, you this is kind of who I am, but I just listen to people, right?
Yeah.
And people don't always make sense. They don't always know what they're talking about. But I listen to people because that's how you learn. And on my channel, I just try to accept everybody. I'm really tolerant with subscribers and viewers. And in the past 2 years, I've only blocked one idiot, right?
Yeah.
So everybody else, I just listen to them, listen to their views, and I think everybody has an opinion, and it's okay, right? It's your opinion, and so I don't worry about all of that, right?
Hmm.
I don't worry about comments, stuff like that, and even when you get negative comments, I'll actually really think about them. You know,
Yeah.
am I wrong?
No, you're absolutely
Yeah,
right. I do the same way. We were just having that conversation. There's too many people
yeah,
just repeat what they heard and they look for validation. That's not
right.
validation. You get the guy that I'm talking with Norway is just like me. And I'm sure you're the same way. Yeah,
Yeah,
you listen to people and you get ideas, but until you dive deep and do your own stuff, that's what
right.
makes you original. I do it like nobody else. Nobody has this process.
Yeah,
Um, Alexis, I'm holding you to it. Did you go subscribe to my channel?
yeah. He did.
Oh, that's great. And EDC reviewer, I'll go and follow your channel too and leave you a message, and then you'll have the link to my channel. I want to watch. I love EDC, man. That is my life. I love EDC bags. I love everything that go in it. It's just a lot of fun. I'll follow everyone that's here.
You ought to throw some of that in your channel, man.
I will. There's so many people that do it and do a great job.
You know,
I can't add any more. Like when you do knives, there's no way I could do anything more than what you do. You do a great job. So
well, like I do primarily vintage knives, but I'll throw modern knives in there, fixed blades. I'll throw prepping stuff in there, occasionally, and camping.
yeah, we'll share. These are my latest. These are Barlow's.
Well, look at them one by one because this is a knife channel. So.
Yeah. Well, I know we're just slow on time.
Well, we're not going to stop when you have knives to show. I can tell you that right now.
So
you can show them.
my favorite is my Barlow's, and this one I don't have my glasses on. They're all USA. I think this one is a Cutmaster. All these were in pitiful shape when I got them, and then I love cleaning them up. By the way, on a belt grinder, you can put a Scotch-Brite belt. A Scotch-Brite belt on belt grinders, and they are fantastic for refinishing knives. They'll look brand new. This is a coarse, medium, and fine. They're really, really good. So yeah, I picked this one up. Camillus. A little bit used on there, but the body of the blade was so good. That's what I use. And so I like playing around with different stuff. I got a Cutmaster. It was a rare Cutmaster, and it had the ugliest scales. I say I get the award for buying the ugliest Barlow off of eBay you have ever seen. I did a video on it.
I've got one of those.
These scales. These are box elder stabilized scales.
Cool.
So I took the old scales off, put these on, contoured them, and I really enjoy the way that looks with those box elder.
Yeah.
Do you do scales?
I am working on that stuff now.
I think I got this knife for $6, right? And it's a Cutmaster, a rare Cutmaster. It's good. And so I enjoy the Barlows. There's another one that I put I just had this left over. It's just a cheap pocket knife, but these are the box elder scales. I didn't do that great of a job on the transitions of this one, but that was a learning one.
For a long time, I didn't buy beat up, broken up old vintage knives. And then I realized, okay, this guy is going to throw it in the garbage.
Yeah.
And I can take that knife and put a new scale on it, and it'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
And so I'm starting to do that now.
That's, I don't think I paid over $10 for any Barlow. And of course, I love getting the books to look up the values of them. The values of them when they're new, some of them were a couple of $100. And
yeah,
I know one of them, I got a handful for like $20 at a pawn shop several months ago. And I've been working on redoing all those. But yeah, so I love getting them. Sometimes you can
go. We'll have to go hunting together one weekend.
Listen, you just name it, and I will be there because
Okay.
I am all about some knife hunting, man. I haven't been up that way either, hunting many. Now I want to tell you, you can take one of these Barlows, $15, and it's near me. I love it. But you can take these Barlows and thin the blades on them, and they're a straight razor. I mean, I guess because of the blades are so thin anyway, and then you thin them a little bit more. I mean, they're straight razors. But yeah, I've got a lot of vintage knives. We'll share those one day.
All right, brother. We're at an hour and 15 minutes. You about ready to?
Yeah, I appreciate everybody being here. Yeah, with Alexis with machinery. I mean, I watched some of my videos on my YouTube of cleaning up some of the old cut masters and stuff. And I just that's the fun thing to do. Now I do that. I do that on. I've got several videos, and I try if I'm going to clean up a really good knife, then I'll put it on a video because I just enjoy that so much. But yeah, I just haven't done any reviews. Stan, you lurker.
He's hanging back. That's what I do. I don't communicate a lot.
Yeah,
it's kind of funny because I have a channel, but
yeah.
when I do a live show, I just kind of lurk. I'm kind of what do they call that? Creeping. Yeah.
You're creeping in the background.
Yeah, I'm creeping.
I love knives, guys. I love talking about knives. I'll watch all y'all's channels, the ones that have it, and we'll talk. Send me messages. I 100% appreciate you guys being here. I'm just a good old guy trying to make a living with knives.
Well, Ricky, I want to thank you so much for coming on the channel. I know it was a rough start, but maybe we could do it again. And I know it's a lot of really good information you put out there. I'm so appreciative that you came on the channel and took the time to do it. And I know a bunch of people have already subscribed to you, so I hope it helped boost your channel. Guys, put it out there. He'll show you how to do it right. You can tell he knows what he's talking about.
Norwegian, I talked to a metallurgist up there. I'm going to send you his name and let you, and you can follow him. He's got great information too. You're welcome, Alexis. Thank you.
All right. Well, we're going to shut it down here, guys. You can hang on, Ricky, if you want after I shut it down.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate y'all for stopping in. I haven't done a live in a long time, but I found Ricky and I liked his channel, and I thought he had some good information and thought I'd put it out there for you. So God bless. Happy New Year. Ricky, got anything?
No, I'm just going to say thanks, and you won't find anybody more passionate about sharpening than I do. It's a rabbit hole. Sometimes I'm up 3 or 4 in the morning studying sharpening. It'll never get old. I love doing it. I'm building a really, really good, reputable sharpening business. And EDC, you got it. As soon as I go in and feed these dogs that's been pawing out the door for 30 minutes, I'm going to get on and follow your channel because every night I'm on the computer looking at EDC stuff. And I only have 1 or 2 people that I follow that does the EDC reviewers. So you'll be the man. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks again, guys. We're going to shut it down now. Say your goodbyes. And
stay sharp with a perfect blade.
Amen.
See you guys. Thanks.